how far can you reverse my age so that I can actually get on the park and play an IPL game?
Welcome to the long game. Let's see what the reports and science have shown us. Your body is 10 to 15 years younger physically than you are chronologically.
But the only concern that I ever have is obviously my father passed last year and he had heart issues. So is that hereditary?
Your testosterone, Jonty, is exemplary. It's 660.
Time to go home.
It's your HbA1c value, Jonty, was which puts you smack in the pre-diabetic cohort.
Where are the areas that I'm taking on too much sugar?
How often are you having these mangoes?
Well, in the season, obviously,
Yes.
every day.
I think we found the answer.
Oh, really?
So the first one, the must-dos, is Hello, I'm Dr. Marcus Rennie. I've spent over 2 decades working as a physician, researcher, and extreme physiologist. I trained at University College in London, and my curiosity and work has led me to some incredible places. I've been fortunate to work in the Royal Air Force. I've worked at NASA. I've spent time in extreme environments from Mount Everest to the Arctic Circle. That curiosity has now led me to this moment, this point, the start of our new show called The Long Game. In this series, I will sit down with incredible individuals, people who've achieved great things in their professional life. I will study them. I will learn from them. I will literally unpack their biology and translate that science into easy to understand, actionable insights for all of us. I promise you all this, that by the end of this episode, you will understand your body much better. This series is for every CEO, founder, entrepreneur, high-performing individual out there. People like you and me, people who lead busy city lives, but who still want to get the most out of their health and their body at the same time. People who understand, ultimately, that life is a long game. Hello, hi, I'm Dr. Marcus, Doc M. Welcome to the show. I am very, very excited to present our first guest this morning. He's a dear, dear friend of mine. A lot of you will recognize this as soon as I say he's cricket's greatest fielder. Yes, it is the one and only Mr. Jonty Rhodes. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the long game.
Thank you, Doc. Good to be here.
So, as I was thinking through how to make the introduction, and I think for all of us, we realized just how great you were when we saw that fielding could be a theater, it could be discipline, it could be an art, it could be a performance, and then you really made it a science and a little bit of madness as well. So thank you for everything you've contributed to the sport. Thank you for everything you've done. And anything exciting happening in your world that you want to mention or tease the audience with right now?
Well, I've been a cricket player, I've been a cricket coach.
Yeah.
I am now a co-owner in a cricket team that's in the European T20 Premier League.
Amazing.
And that's an interesting avatar. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, Jonty, stick in your lane. Don't get involved too much with the actual cricket side of things.
All right, so maybe that's a good segue into my first section in terms of just setting it up. And the way we do this is, imagine I had a magic wand. Imagine I was the fairy godfather or the genie in the bottle, and I could solve any one wish for you when it comes to your health and fitness. Let's just define it in the world of longevity. What would you want that wish to be solved for?
Well, having worked in the Indian Premier League for 15 out of the 19 seasons as a coach,
Yeah.
I retired 5 years before the first season. And I think one of the oldest players that debuted in the Indian Premier League was Pravin Tambe, and he was 41.
All right.
So the wish would be, how far can you reverse my age so that I can actually get on the park and play
all right.
in an IPL game? Or is that just not even the genie can produce that sort of magic.
Challenge accepted.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do today. Let's see what the reports and science have shown us, and then let's see how we can take it from there. So to summarize, all the folks watching as well, if you're in your 40s or 50s and you want to have the energy that you used to have in your 20s and 30s, maybe go back to playing your favorite sport, as John T has with cricket. You need to watch the rest of this episode, because hopefully this genie is going to be solving for this individual and helping him relive his youth, and maybe we'll get to see more of the on-field performances once again. All right, so let's start with the first segment, and my first segment is called Measured. Okay, so what that is that behind the scenes, and for everyone sort of watching on at home as well, John T has actually been very, very gracious with his time, and we sent him to a lab where we prodded and pricked and poked and investigated and did a whole bunch of tests. We did genetic testing, we did blood testing, we did DEXA scanning, we got you on the treadmill, we did a stress test, we looked at the blood flow into your brain, we looked at the blood flow into your heart, we looked at the abdomen, we did a whole bunch of things. So I can safely say that I now know you better than you know yourself, at least your biology. So, drum roll please. Would you like to know what your biological age is?
It's interesting because every time I come back to India and people talk about, hey, you're still looking in shape, or what are you doing? I keep telling them, don't judge a book by its cover. So I look fairly fit and healthy, but I'm a little bit anxious about what all this prodding and pricking is going to actually reveal. So
do you want to reveal to the audience what your chronological age is?
Yeah,
how old are you? How many birthdays?
No issue.
Yeah.
It's, I am 56.
Okay.
And on July 27th, I'm turning 57. 57 I'll be.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, big year for me.
So I can reveal that your biological age is 51. You know, honestly, when I looked at that data, you've got the body still of a trained athlete. Your body is 10 to 15 years younger physically than you are chronologically. How did you? I mean, look, I look at you with envy, right? Because I'm still in my early to mid 40s, but it's incredible that you've managed to maintain that sort of physical frame, especially bone and muscle health, which is so important in India, because we do see a lot of sarcopenia, muscle loss. We do see a lot of osteopenia, bone loss, and you've managed to maintain that. What did you do in your early years? Did you have a structured training program? Did you think about it consciously? I mean, help us understand how you've become the John T. Rose of today.
Well, I just played sport, and that was the amazing thing. So even playing cricket for South Africa in 1992, that first World Cup that I went to, I was playing state hockey and state cricket, and then we got back on the international cricketing scene. I went back from the World Cup in 92, we went to the Caribbean for a month, went back to South Africa and played hockey for my state.
Right.
So throughout my sort of international cricketing career, we were the first team that had a biokineticist involved to help us train, but it was also, it wasn't very specific at that stage. So everybody kind of did the same training program. And I wasn't someone for the gym. I remember in 1993 when we toured Sri Lanka, I went into the gym at one of the hotels, and because Kepler Wessels and Hansi Cronje were taking their training, they were boxing and gymming.
Yeah.
And on the lat pull-down machine, I pulled the machine, the sort of bar down, but behind my head, and the cable snapped, and I took it as a sign to stay out the gym. Just, keep running.
Yeah.
And movement has always been a part of what I've done, and generally through sport.
Yeah.
I retired from playing cricket and decided I had enough running.
Yeah.
So I invested in a decent mountain bike.
Yeah.
I bought a surfboard.
Yeah.
And that was how I maintained for the next 10 years post-cricket. So didn't go back into the gym. I met Melanie, my wife, in 2013. She's a qualified yoga teacher.
Yeah.
And then I got into yoga. So, and that was more, I suppose, body weight training than anything else. So no structure to it whatsoever, just lots of movement.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's such a powerful message for everyone. You just loved moving. I think we can become a little bit over orchestrative sometimes in life. And what that tends to then happen is people then just focus on 1 to 2 things. So on the DEXA scan, the composition that we looked at specifically to investigate your bone mineral density, which tells us how good the architecture of your skeleton is. Again, incredible. Your data has shown that you have the skeleton of someone in their late 40s. So you got a huge advantage on your chronological age. And you were asking, and we were chatting about this a little earlier on, and the hypothesis is that every time you sprinted in the field, every time you dived at point, every time you landed on a bone in the outfield or the infield, it was essentially creating a stimulus and allowing the bone to then lay down more mineral, which even today, so many years on, the skeleton still remembers.
Yeah.
And it just shows how powerful resistance training and stimulus can be for bone health. And you're in incredible shape from that perspective.
Because that's been...
Well done.
That's been a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
2003, it's 23 years since I ran at any sort of speed.
Yeah.
I mean, I did dive last year.
Yeah.
My wife did want to know...
Oh, we saw that.
do you realize, Jonty, that
We all saw that.
and I had to explain there is no off button, but 20 years later, the ball came in my area, and before I thought about it, I was diving.
So, Jonty, before we dive into, I'm going to use that pun a lot, before we dive into understanding your body, help me understand, your day-to-day life a little bit better. And I think it'll give good context, not just for our conversation, but folks watching in online as well. So tell us a little bit about, what does a typical day with the family look like? How do you spend your time? What goes on in the Rhodes household?
Okay, so the average day, it just depends on, am I working away? Because most of my work is away from when we're based in Goa.
Yeah.
And my average day on the road is in a hotel. Early morning, I'll start with a bullet coffee. So it'll have lion's mane, it'll have collagen, it'll have ghee, and I blend it.
Yeah.
And, I only eat breakfast at about 9:30, 10.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest meal of my day. I try not to eat too late, but in India, that's so difficult.
Yeah.
And then I'll do...
and what does breakfast look like for you?
Breakfast is usually masala omelette.
Right.
And, I don't eat cereals. I don't have breads in the morning. So if I have the omelette, I'll do sauteed vegetables, maybe an overnight chia, overnight oats with chia, and kind of mix that up. But the staple would be the masala omelette.
Right.
So that's something that when I'm in a hotel, I pretty much go to.
So you're getting your eggs and your protein in the morning. Right.
Yeah. I really am on my own for 4 days of the week. So that's pretty much my work. And then when with the family, kids only have to be at school by 9 o'clock, so we can leave home at 8:40. So don't have an alarm. We just wake up when sun wakes us up.
Right.
And get the kids to school.
Yeah. You don't have a rooster kicking about in the garden.
We have noise.
In
Goa, we definitely have.
Right.
In Agonda, in South Goa, we have a interesting farm life almost, and but that gets you up in the morning, and again, don't have breakfast. Take the kids to school, come back. Melanie's usually just finishing her yoga.
Yeah.
We'll try and get in the ocean together, but we'll generally have a smoothie, and then she'll swim, surf, depending what the waves are like.
Yeah.
We pick up the kids later from school. So again, we sort of have one, and then we'll eat with the kids from 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We go down to the beach until 6 in the evening, 6:30, and then we'll order from whichever of those sort of beach shacks, restaurants, whatever we want to eat for the night. There's 4 or 5 different choices that we have.
Yeah.
And we're done eating by 7 and we walk home.
Wow.
So, no TV makes a massive difference, because after school, there is no option. Kids have to get outside.
Yeah.
And it's the beach or the beach. And so we go to the beach, and we are done eating by 7:30, we're home, showered, and then we read. So very different work, very different home life in my environment.
Amazing. It's obviously one which is very holistic, wholesome, and sounds like there's a lot of nature in that day to day. I was quite fascinated when I was looking at your numbers. You spoke about stress and sort of mental pressures. Your blood cortisol levels, which is a hormone secreted by the adrenal glands in response to stress, was actually nice and low, at 13. So that's a good sign.
With that cortisol levels, I mean, can you train that, or is that through diet and lifestyle?
So, I'm glad you bring that up, because we use the word stress, I think, too easily in day-to-day living.
Yeah.
There are two types of stress. There's the good stress, which is exactly what you're describing, the adrenaline, the stress that allows you to prepare for something that you need to do. And hopefully you accomplish that task, it's completed, and your body recovers and then grows from it. And then there's the bad stress, which is the stress which is always on, which is the stress which I think we are too immersed in day-to-day living today. And so this blood cortisol level looks at let's say, the bad stress component, the distress component. And the danger with cortisol is that it leads to inflammation in the body, inflammation which then accelerates the aging process. So you having low levels of cortisol means we can keep your inflammation low, which again, I can see from your blood chemistry with your hsCRP, which is a marker of inflammation. That itself is 0.16. So again, very nice and low. So your cortisol is low, the inflammation is low, and therefore your body is more ready to recover, which is what we want, especially when we're thinking about reversing age and keeping you as young for as long as possible.
Okay, that's not good news for me, though, because my wife thinks I'm living my best life. And I keep telling her, no, it's stressful environment and being on the road.
Right.
And okay, so she's actually right.
So do I need to redo this and give you another slant for home?
We'll have a Melanie-specific answer, please, Doc.
And do you, I see a Garmin and a Whoop. So are you actively monitoring your sleep and your recovery, and what's that journey been like?
Yeah, there's been pretty much 3 markers for me without, as I said, and that was always my concern about judging a book by its cover. It was sleep was the most, because I am the best sleeper in our house. I mean, I really am, but I get at least 7 or 8 hours in. And those was one of the 3 things that I would look at. And it's a big focus for me, is sleep. The second thing is my steps. It's again, movement. And easy ways for me through airports, through travel, which is a big part of my life when I'm working. I don't take the escalator. I always walk up the stairs. I carry my bag. I don't roll it. I generally carry a backpack, because that's, it's like a 7 or 8 kg weighted vest. So I'm walking everywhere with my backpack on both shoulders. I stand behind so many men when I want to just put get the other strap and say, buddy, put it on both. Don't, because you kind of see them sort of hanging down with a backpack on one. So there's small things that I can do, I know I need, but I don't go, okay, 10,000 steps is the minimum. If I haven't connected that, I don't worry about it and panic, because I know over the month, that's pretty much where I'm going to get to. At home as well, we walk a lot down to the beach, back again, which after dinner is a great thing. We have our meal and then we actually walk.
Amazing.
We don't get in a car and drive home and get to bed. So sleep, movement, and then nutrition. So I'm not monitoring, how many grams or calories, but I try and get as much protein as possible. India is the only place where I really eat breads, and that's usually a paratha, or it's a naan, or a roti. And just because we eat with our hands, my wife and I, we eat a lot of palak paneer or dal. So from that perspective, I use bread as a utensil, really, but it's an excuse, because I really love it. But back in South Africa, we're buying sourdough. Our kids have sandwiches every day, but I'm not sitting there having bread on toast, for breakfast or an afternoon snack. So it's a different carbohydrates. I'm not having a great deal of carbs in South Africa. So we're a bit more fat and protein based. So, but it is something that we're very conscious of at home. Our kids can eat whatever's in the house. So we make sure that nutrition, because food can be medicine, and that is Melanie's department. So if I'm away from home, maybe I'm a little bit more relaxed. I did have cheesecake last night for dessert.
After your paddle.
I felt I deserved it.
Right.
But also not on a daily basis, I'm not measuring anything.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing anything.
Yeah.
I'm understanding if I'm not feeling great, I'll go back and look at my sleep.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look at my movement.
Yeah.
And I'll remember what I've been eating or drinking.
Yeah.
So it's just something for me to base how I'm feeling.
So I think there's a lot of great learnings for everyone watching, which is that we don't need to over-orchestrate or over-complicate things. We can just focus on simple things, but just make them every day.
And it's obviously a habit that Melanie, as a yoga teacher, as an architect, so she understands from a structure point of view that, and with her yoga, that everything is connected.
Yeah.
So you can't sleep well, but have bad nutrition, or train hard but sleep badly. All those things are connected, and in any way that you can find good sleep, good nutrition, I mean, there are small habits that you can change or implement and see a big difference. And it's not been, as I said, I don't train specifically. I don't have a training regime. I don't follow a diet. Which is probably why I'm able to consistently do this over 12 months of the year.
Yeah, amazing. We're going to dive into the next segment, which is where we look at your numbers and then focus on those three things. So I'm going to now bring up your dashboard, and on your dashboard, we're going to look at all the numbers and then specifically focus on your cardiac health, your metabolic health, and then your gut health as well. So I've got a bunch of numbers in front of me, which we can all see on the dashboard. And we're first going to focus on your heart health. Okay. Do you have any idea in terms of how your heart health is currently?
No, I don't. Other than struggling on the paddle court yesterday.
Right.
Understanding that my VO2 max is probably not what it used to be as a international sportsman. But also, something that I've never really focused on, just because I believe that the lifestyle that we lead is helping me rather than hindering me. But the only concern that I ever have is, obviously, my father passed last year and he had heart issues. So is that hereditary? So I'm a little bit anxious about what your numbers are going to tell me, but I don't see a frown.
Yeah.
Too big a frown.
That's true.
So hopefully it's not too bad.
Again, it's one of envy, but it's something we can definitely optimize, right? So the first thing is we did an echocardiogram. So we looked at the structure of the heart. We looked at how well it's pumping blood, how well the valves are working, how well the musculature is doing. And you've got an ejection fraction of 60%, which means that your heart is in excellent shape. It's pumping blood exactly the way it should be. We then got you to run on the stress test, and we put you through the mill, quite literally, and you came up in the top 10% globally for your age. That's the electrical conduction in the heart, how far we were able to push you. You did incredibly well, and there was 0 ischemic changes. So what that means is that at no time on the stress test did the heart muscle show any signs of distress. The electricity of the heart was working very well all the way through. So the pump is working well, the electricity is working well. We then looked at the plumbing. So we not the plumbing.
Just check. Okay, thank you.
We'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about that. Oh, I think incredible. Whilst we're on the topic of plumbing, your testosterone, Jonty, is exemplary. It's 660. You've got the testosterone of a young man in his mid to late 20s.
Time to go home.
It's time to go home. Melanie, I'm sorry. You're going to have a charge back, Jonty, coming back. But it really is incredible. Do you do anything specifically for that?
I'm not sure.
Have you measured it before?
No, have never tested. But it probably is just, again, the lifestyle. But with regards to the high T levels, I'm back in the gym just on occasion, so maybe twice or thrice a week, if that's a lot for me.
Yeah.
And then started taking creatine.
So, things you're probably doing subconsciously which are helping. One is the strength training. Resistance work helps the body produce more testosterone.
Yeah.
The importance that you've given to sleep and recovery, that's when the period of time when the body starts to secrete more and there's more opportunity for rest and recovery when you're sleeping well. So that's also very good. In Indian men today, we see a lot of low testosterone values because there are higher rates of stress, the cortisol.
Cortisol.
There's low sleep. there's much higher rates of obesity, especially in urban India.
Okay.
And the fat cell actually converts testosterone through an aromatase enzyme into estrogen.
Okay.
So that'll bring their testosterone values down. And then we have a lot of microplastics in the environment, in the water, in the food. All of this can potentially reduce it. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
You're doing something incredibly well. Now, that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. His testosterone is good. We get back to your heart health now.
Yes,
Right?
okay.
So pump is working well. Electricity is working well. We then looked at the blood flow to your brain using an ultrasound device over the major arteries that feed oxygen to your brain.
Sure.
And these vessels are completely clean. You have the arteries of a 35 to 40-year-old. It's exceptional. So overall, your heart and your cardiovascular system is in good shape.
Okay.
What we can do, however, is to optimize it further. And there were a few markers which we measured, which started to show that there was now a little bit of decline which is creeping in, right? You're 56, 57 years old, so some of that is natural, but we can arrest it and try and slow down that process as we get older. The first thing we measured was something called a coronary calcium score. And a simple analogy would be like the plumbing that we have at home, right? The pipes, over a period of time, calcium can build up and that reduces the diameter available and it can clog up the pipe. In the same way, it can potentially clog the pipes which are leading to blood in the heart. And there are fundamentally two types of plaque that can build up. There's the calcium, which is the one I'm going to talk about now. And then there's the soft plaque, which is the cholesterol plaque, which we can talk about little later on. Now, your coronary calcium score test was 25.3. Okay. Now, when we talk about normal, the normal value of calcium in the heart should be 0.
Okay.
There's no need for it to be there.
Sure.
So this is what we call a non-zero value. It's
Okay.
a positive result. So you have a quarter of what other men of your age would be. So that's actually a great starting point, number one. The second thing is that all the calcium in your heart is in the vessel which feeds the right side of the heart. And this is an important point because your heart has two halves, the left side and the right side. The left side is the major pump, which pumps blood to the whole body.
Yeah.
The right side is the minor pump, which pumps blood primarily to the lungs. And your calcium is building up on the right side of the heart, not the left side. And if it was on the left side, we'd be even more anxious.
Okay.
The right side has less of a pumping action to do. So that's another good thing in response. And the last thing connected to this was a blood value that we measured, which is your homocysteine. Homocysteine is a blood marker which tells us how much at risk are you of a heart event or a brain event. Your value was 14.4. I like to keep that value in single digits, under 10. So it's slightly higher than what it should be. What was really interesting, what we did for you as well, Jonty, is we did a genetic test on you as well. Because your homocysteine value was high, as I said, it should be a single digit number, yours is higher. I wanted to try and understand why it's high. And we tested a very specific gene. It's called the MTHFR gene. And all of us carry 2 copies of the gene. We should be carrying 2 copies, one from mom, one from dad. You have a fault with one of the copies. So you only effectively have one good functioning gene. The other one is slightly dysfunctional. And what that means is that your body's ability to manage and clear homocysteine is operating at only 70% of what it should be. Hence, your homocysteine values are climbing, and it could potentially be contributing towards your calcium being deposited and your heart being affected over the long run because of that. So we can fix that.
Okay.
There are supplements that we can take which can increase the conversion of this in your bloodstream and clear the homocysteine faster. And in 3 to 6 months' time, we can measure your bloods again and hopefully they'll be completely normal, right? And the typical supplement we like to use is what we call a methylcobalamin, which is an active form of B12, which helps with the methylation cycles and clears homocysteine much faster. So it's a supplement. You can measure again, repeat, and see where you are 3 to 6 months from now.
Okay, so in 3 to 6 months, there can be a difference. Because it's not like I need a drastic lifestyle overhaul.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Not specifically for this. But this is a good moment, I think, to pause and just talk to the audience as well. Because in Jonty, we saw specifically that he has a buildup of hard plaque in the arteries that are leading to his heart muscle. for many Indians who are watching this show, we should also be aware that there is a soft plaque component. And that soft plaque doesn't show up on the coronary calcium score. So it's important to do the coronary calcium score test to see if you have calcium buildup in your heart muscle. But for many Indians and South Asians, we tend to lean towards more soft plaque building up, and that doesn't show up as well. And there's another sort of pathway towards diagnosis and what we can do for that as well. So that's interesting for us to know as Indians that our relative risk is very different to a Caucasian set as well. And we'll look at the second area of health, which I wanted to focus on you with, Jonty, which is your metabolic health. Right? And typically when people think about metabolic disease, we are concerned around diabetes, insulin resistance, fatty liver disease, hypertension, cardiac effects, etc. And of course, one of the major blood markers that everyone measures today, which is great, is the A1C, the HbA1c, which is a 3-month measure of your blood glucose control.
Okay.
And your HbA1c value, Jonty, was 5.9%, which puts you smack in the pre-diabetic cohort. So have you measured this blood value yourself before?
No.
No, okay. Is there any family history of diabetes?
My father had late onset diabetes, and that must have been in his late 60s, early 70s, and he had to change his diet a lot. I mean, he had a very sweet tooth.
This number is slightly higher than I would like it to be. And if we only had this one number, there would, of course, be concern. We would be concerned that you are in a pre-diabetic range, which is, we know diabetes is a disease which puts you at risk of so many things. The good news is that we didn't stop there. We went deeper. We looked at a whole spectrum of blood chemistry beyond this. And one of the specific numbers we looked at was your fasting insulin levels. And more specifically, we looked at how resistant your body is to the effects of insulin in your bloodstream. And for both of those, you scored excellently. Your fasting insulin level, Jonty, is 3.5. A single-digit number is exactly where it should be. And your resistance, your HOMA-IR, which is a sort of a calculator we use looking at how resistant your body cells are to insulin, was at 0.8, which again is excellent, right? So what this means is that you're not developing the resistance pattern that we would typically see in a lot of Indians. You have an exposure problem, i.e. your blood is being exposed to a little too much glucose from what you would like it to be, but not enough that you're beginning to develop a fasting insulin response, a resistance insulin response, which would be more dangerous.
Okay, right? But if I'm not eating sugar at home, I don't have sugar, masala chai, that's the only time I'll have sugar in anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are the areas I drink wine, where are the areas that I'm taking on too much sugar?
Yeah. Again, a question I get asked very often, and we often think about sugar just in terms of the simple sugar.
Refined.
There's sugar in fruit.
Yeah.
There's sugar in some vegetables. There's, of course, sugar in pasta, in rice, in cereals. There's sugar in wine, in alcohol, in beer. So sugar exists in many varieties across food. And one of the things that we would probably want to do for you as a next step, we didn't get a chance to do it last time around, is actually have you wear a very simple device on your arm, which is a continuous glucose monitor, a CGM. And then we can track the glucose curve day by day, minute by minute, and actually see how your body responds to different sugars, right? We may find that your body responds very well to, let's say, white rice, but it may not respond as well to red rice or brown rice, and that might actually lead to a spike. We may find that your body responds well to red wine, but if you have a glass of beer or white wine or another type of liquor, it might spike. So sugars exist in many places. We need to find which ones are not working for you and then cut that down for you over a period of time. And this is a big takeaway for our audience as well, because a lot of our audience are probably watching this from India, living in urban cities, leading stressful, busy lifestyles. And for everyone watching this show, The Long Game, I want you to understand that diabetes is not a disease of sugar. Diabetes is a disease of insulin, and it's the body's resistance to insulin over a period of time by the high blood sugars because of what we consume, which leads to the metabolic challenges and the ultimate decline that we see in day to day. So something which was very important here is that we checked Jonty's sugar levels, but we also checked his insulin levels as well. And it's because of having both of those measurements, we know for you, it's a problem of exposure, not a problem of resistance, which a lot of people sitting out there which might not otherwise have. So the call to action here is very simple. The call to action here is measure your blood sugar levels, but also measure your fasting insulin levels as well, so that you have a complete picture to know whether you're at risk of diabetes. Yeah?
So, I mean, we are a family that eats a lot of fruit. I mean, is that, so fructose, everyone thinks that fruit is healthy, but can it add to that?
Yeah, and which fruits do you eat routinely?
So in Goa, we have a lot of watermelon every day. The family will devour an entire watermelon.
There we are.
So
I think we found the answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can keep my wine.
Oh, well.
Thanks, Doc. Grape juice.
Grape juice.
No, I don't drink
slightly
grape juice.
more mature
No.
grape juice. We look at the glycemic index of foods.
Yeah.
The glycemic index tells us how much of a spike your blood will have as an effect of eating that particular food. And fruits can have a low GI, a low glycemic index fruit, or you can have a high GI. And we want to lean towards the low GI fruits. So something like a mango, something like a watermelon, a papaya, those typically sit at the higher end of the spectrum. And if you're doing it often, which it sounds like, I mean, particularly watermelon, that's going to lead to a lot of repetitive spikes, and we definitely want to cut back on that. So I may suggest, again, now I'm flying blind without data, but I may suggest that instead of having watermelon every day, maybe you limit it to 3 times a week.
Okay.
Right? And if you want to have that fruit craving, you switch to apple or a citrus fruit or something else like this.
Okay.
Yeah. And how often are you having these mangoes?
Well, in the season, obviously, every day.
Every day.
I do buy 2. I do have
2 mangoes a day.
2 mangoes a day.
All right. Okay.
One with my Greek yogurt in the morning.
Yeah.
And my blueberries.
Yeah.
So I eat it with them, and then one as an afternoon snack. But I am aware of eating it on its own. So it's for a limited time. You know, the rest of the year we don't have much. In South Africa, we don't eat mango at all, or barely eat. It's just here in India. This time of the year.
Okay. Well, I think we can reduce it a little bit. That'll definitely help. Okay, let's look at our last metric now. So on the dashboard, we can see your gut health. So tell me a little bit about your gut health. Is it something that you've had challenges with growing up? Do you notice indigestion or bloating or constipation?
Yeah. So no indigestion. No bloating. Well. Constipation has been an issue, and that was something that my mother had throughout,
right?
And still has.
Yeah.
You know, in her early 80s, she used to take these funny little brown tablets. Not even tablets, like little. I don't even know what they were. But throughout her life, and when we were still at school, staying at home with the parents, I mean, it was obviously something that troubled her, and I've certainly been constipated most of my life.
And what we specifically did was we ran a food allergy panel on you. So this is a blood-based test where we looked at the presence of antibodies to very specific foods. And these were the ones which scored the highest, i.e. you have the highest allergens to these particular food items. The first was cow milk.
Okay.
The second was egg white. The third was the gliadin in wheat.
Okay.
Gluten gliadin in wheat. Then we had almonds, cashew nuts, and the fifth is agar, which is present in a lot of mithai. So firstly, do you eat a lot of mithai?
What is mithai?
Oh.
What have I been eating without knowing it?
You don't know. This Indian sweet, which is very famous in this part of the world. You get it at festivals and weddings.
Of course not.
No? All right. Good. You can't lie now, John.
No, of course not. Okay. I don't know. But I do get given things to. And in India, South Africans always say, "Oh, how do you handle the spicy food?" I say, "I handle the spice. It's the sweet.
It's the sweet.
That gets to me."
But do you eat a lot of these nuts, cashew nuts,
and almonds? I have a lot of.
You have a lot of.
Yeah.
And cow's milk?
No, because
Barely.
so dairy would be in the yogurt.
Yep.
But in my coffee, I'm generally an
Yeah.
espresso or
Yeah.
I have ghee.
Got it. We're not too concerned about the yogurt because
Yeah.
the bacteria and the organisms in the yogurt actually make it less less inflammatory. Gluten is there slightly, but it sounds like you're fairly good when it comes to
Yeah,
gluten.
we
Right?
don't. And again,
Yeah.
in India,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of pasta at home.
Yeah.
As I said, I don't have much bread in South Africa at all.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'd like to do specifically when it comes to your gut health is to suggest that we actually remove these specific allergens for about 3 months.
No cashews,
No cashews,
no almonds.
no almonds.
Wow. Cow milk?
Avoid, so don't add milk to
Okay.
anything.
Yeah,
Cheese is fine, paneer is fine,
Okay.
dahi yogurt is fine,
Okay.
right? But don't add cow's milk to anything.
Okay.
Try and avoid gluten wherever you can. That's
Okay.
important. And remember, gluten is there in parathas and rotis and the Indian breads and the naans, which you like to use as an instrument. I
Yes,
think you
as
called
a
it.
tool.
As a tool.
Yeah.
Very
I've
interesting.
been lost. I'm to starve without it.
May I suggest a spoon instead?
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah. That might help.
I got green fingers from palak paneer and eating with a tool.
Yeah. No, well, what this will help, Jonty, is that it'll reduce the inflammation which is there in the gut.
Yeah.
It'll reduce the permeability of the gut lining, and it'll allow the sort of the gut to just heal itself,
Sure.
right? And then hopefully with some better hydration and a little less caffeine, we might see that your gut health improves.
Is there a number that I should stop at in the morning? Like coffee is 3. I have 3 before, but then I don't drink coffee
Through the day.
through the day.
Yeah.
By 11 o'clock, that's probably my latest coffee that I'll have.
People often ask me this question, and they don't ask about coffee. They say, Doc, is caffeine good for your longevity? And what we've seen is at an epidemiological level, when we study sort of cultures around the world, we typically find cultures which consume caffeine in a healthy amount to be living longer, especially in the blue zones, which everyone talks about.
Yeah.
And this caffeine can be present either in coffee or in tea. Typically, they would be consuming between 1 to 2 cups of caffeine a day.
Sure.
Right? And the importance with caffeine is that, yes, it's a stimulus and it helps you perform better, but it can begin to affect the architecture of sleep at night, especially because caffeine typically lasts in the bloodstream for 6 to 8 hours as a half-life. So that morning cup of caffeine can still be there as you want to go to bed at night, especially if you've had a lot of it. So I would suggest we maybe limit it to 1 to 2 cups. If you're doing it as a bulletproof in the morning, that's good.
So that's fine. But if I'm double espresso, because
I'd cut back on that. So the takeaway for you is, and for everyone watching, in fact, is increase the fiber, increase the good foods like what Jonty's having, which is kefir and yogurt and dahi and kimchi, all these foods which have got healthy organisms in it for the gut, and stay well hydrated. And if you want, measure your blood allergen levels to certain foods, because then you can identify them, cut down for a few months, and allow the gut to heal as well.
Is that just causing inflammation, or does it actually stop the nutrients doing what it's supposed to do?
So actually what it does is it makes the gut slightly leakier. There's this phrase which is often spoken about,
a leaky
which
gut.
is leaky gut.
That sounds
right?
disgusting.
It sounds
and sounds terrible.
It's probably only a half truth, but effectively what it does is it means that the ingredients and the things inside the gut start to seep out, and it raises inflammation. And the body doesn't like inflammation, right? The lower that can be, the better. Yeah. Good. All right. So those were the 3 big areas. Now we're at my favorite section of the show, the long game, and this is where I get to do my job, basically, which is we've got the incredible Jonty Rhodes here, the world's greatest fielder, and he set me the challenge that he wants to become 10 years biologically younger and get back onto the IPL or the ETPL field, and hopefully we get to see him in action, right? And we spent some time looking at his numbers and your metrics, so we've understood where we can improve upon. And in this section, which is called Improved, we're going to do it in 3 different streams. I'm going to talk about things that I absolutely really want you have to do it. These are what we call the must-dos. Okay. The second are going to be called the good-to-dos. This is if you can build in time day to day, these are things I would like you to do. And the last is what the elites are doing, right? So the guys you're looking after on the field, this is what they're probably doing, and which we need to bring into your lifestyle as well. Okay. So the first one, the must-dos, is going to be focused on zone 2 endurance work, right? So the reason I'm putting this in is because we've seen that your heart and your cardiovascular system is good, but it can be enhanced going forward as well. And zone 2 exercise is where we train the heart muscle and the cardiovascular system to be operating at about 60 to 75% of its maximum.
Okay.
So you're 57 years old.
Yeah.
So your heart rate that I want you to target is between 120 to 125 beats per minute. This is around 70% of your maximum heart rate. And I would like you to be doing this for 150 minutes per week.
Per week?
Per week.
Okay.
So if you could take a 5-day working week, that's 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
So it's very manageable even given your travel schedule. This is important. People spend a lot of time training the heart in the wrong zone, which is where they try and sprint all-out efforts. And that's important for the heart, but the 80% rule should be in the zone 2 workout category. So that's your must-do. The second is the good-to-dos.
Okay.
The good-to-dos are, we're going to talk about supplements. Now, what we didn't talk about earlier was whether you're taking any. You mentioned collagen, you mentioned creatine. Are you on anything else right now? Okay. So I would like to add these 2 supplements specifically for you. The first is magnesium, 400 milligrams, taken at 8 p.m. And the second is an omega-3.
Is that for sleep, magnesium?
Magnesium is for recovery.
Oh, recovery.
It's to improve recovery.
Okay.
So all of that strain that we're going to build through the day, your body is going to recover faster from it, which is very effective. And then an omega-3, 2 grams, taken with food, maybe after breakfast or after lunchtime. And omega-3 is in your system for 2 reasons. One, it's a good anti-inflammatory molecule. So it'll suppress the inflammation which is coming from your gut. It'll suppress the inflammation which will happen after, bouts of exercise. And it's also allowing your heart and your cardiovascular system, it's a lubricant for the entire system. So it's a very, very good supplement to consume. It'll protect your brain, it'll protect your heart in the long run. It's a quote-unquote good form of cholesterol, right? So 2 grams a day with food as a supplement and the magnesium as well. So we covered the must-dos, we covered the good-to-dos, and now we're going to focus on what the elites are doing, which for me, to add for you, would be the sauna. Do you get a chance to do much sauna?
We do in Goa. We love it,
right?
But probably only on a weekend.
Okay.
So we do the ice bath. So we do the contrast therapy.
Lovely. Most of the studies have come out of Scandinavia. The northern countries have shown that sauna therapy can be one of the most effective interventions that you can do from a sort of a good aging perspective. It helps the cardiovascular system. It helps improve detoxification. It's great for recovery. The duration is 15 to 20 minutes, 2 to 3 times per week.
Okay. That's doable.
Yeah. So these are 3 interventions. If we can get you to exercise in zone 2, some more. If we can supplement with some good omega-3 and some magnesium to improve your recovery, to reduce your inflammation and effectively lubricate your blood vessels and brain health a little bit better. And if we can build in sauna therapy through the week, when we repeat your tests in 3 to 6 months, hopefully we would have reversed some of those numbers for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. They're not difficult. You just need a little bit of that addition and discipline in. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm just grateful that it's not a massive overhaul of my lifestyle, because we've been kind of talking about how we feel as a family we're doing the right thing, and nutrition is obviously something where if I'm on the road I'm not as disciplined as I am at home. So and then also just from the zone 2 surfing, I think that is something that keeps me in pretty good shape, and I think zone 2 is because the ocean is you're never sitting still. So even if I'm not lifting weights or pedaling a bicycle, you're constantly exercising in the ocean. So I've just got to find a way to make something that's interesting, because I love being in the ocean, and I need to find something that is as exciting for me to participate in when I can't get in the ocean, because that's the one thing that I struggle with. So, and walking is just not quite that.
Sure.
I'm grateful that the numbers are good.
Good. Well, thank you. You've been very gracious with your time. Thank you for being on The Long Game.
Pleasure, Doc.
Thanks. Before you leave, I wanted to just summarize our conversation today and leave you with 5 actionable takeaways that you can each do starting today for improving your day-to-day health, right? Just to remember, we had the greatest fielder on earth, Jonty Rhodes, with us, and he set me the unique challenge of reversing his biological age by 10 years so that he can make it back onto the field of cricket once again. We had 5 major takeaways. The first takeaway is that everyone should have their coronary calcium tests done so that we can measure how much calcium is building up in the arteries around your heart. This is important because it tells us how stiff the vessels are and what impact that can do to your heart muscles for your long-term health. The second major takeaway is to check your blood intolerances to specific food items. Like Jonty, you might be eating foods every single day which your gut gets irritated by and slowly leading to this low level of inflammation from a day-to-day perspective. It's a simple blood test that you can each do to improve your gut health. My third major takeaway came from the conversation we had around sugar. Diabetes is not a disease of sugar. Diabetes is a disease of insulin. So in the way you get your sugars tested every 3 to 6 months, please also measure your fasting insulin levels. That number will provide your physician with more of an insight to your day-to-day long-term health, especially when it comes to controlling your metabolic function. The fourth takeaway we had was how to improve your cardiovascular health. And here, Jonty and I spoke specifically around the importance of Zone 2 exercise. Zone 2 exercise can be measured by calculating 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. You should be engaging in at least 150 minutes of Zone 2 exercise every single week. So make sure you get up, get out, and get moving. And our fifth takeaway for everyone is what should the ideal composition of food be to improve your gut health. We spoke about the importance of a prebiotic, a probiotic, of having plenty of fiber, of limiting things like sugar, caffeine, and gluten, and most importantly, of staying well hydrated and limiting the caffeine day to day as well. So those are my 5 takeaways from the incredible Jonty Rhodes that we can each do in our day-to-day lives to improve our health for the long game. The long game isn't about perfection. It's about trajectory. Now, it goes without saying that whilst, yes, I'm a medical doctor, this show is not there to be a replacement from having a consultation with your physician. So if you have any queries about your own health, about your metrics, please do consult with a registered medical practitioner so that you can receive the right advice that you require. If you enjoyed the conversation today, then feel free to reach out to the team at Human Edge. You can find out all the details in the link below me and, of course, in the description. Until we meet again, I wish you well. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.